Hello, I'm Danny Robins, and this is Ghost Huns. You know, if you were going to be haunted by that, you'd want to ideally slow it down, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why waste your time? Yeah. You know you're going to be mine.
Yeah, so it's not creepy, is it?
It's a very upbeat track to be haunted by. Yeah.
Makes it even creepier.
Let's have a look.
That is...
Oh my God, it's a severed finger.
Yes,
it's
lucky Danny.
Yeah. It.
You've got a dirty Ouija board.
Well, dirty Ouija board.
We had a dirty... Susie's dirty Ouija board.
Yeah, it's
Now that's a podcast, isn't it? Yeah, welcome to Dirty Ouija Board.
Danny Robins.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
The requests have been off the wall.
Yeah, it's the ideal collab when you get Danny on. It's been non-stop.
The people want it, and you're here. Thank you so much.
I am here.
You've taken a break from your very busy tour.
I've got 2 days off, yeah.
And you've decided to come and spend your
Christ,
day.
I'm so sorry you're
I'm
here.
spending all 2 days here. I'm not leaving.
Don't leave. We're doing a 10 episodes.
48 hours of Ghost Hunts. I've been travelling all around. I've just come from Swindon. I'm off to Poole in Dorset next. But,
wow.
off up to Scotland next week. So,
Selling out. Are there any tickets left?
There's a few. I think if you want to go to Inverness, Darlington or Guildford, then you can get in. But it's been really fun. It's brilliant. And I'm sure, like you, I kind of think of my podcast as a conversation, as one half of a conversation.
Yeah.
And to have that conversation in the room with real people is lovely.
Yeah.
Normally it's on social media, but here we are in a theatre and people are telling me their ghost stories and coming up with their questions and theories. And it's been amazing.
Oh, it's so. We've done a couple of live shows now, and it's so. It's when your baby comes to life, really, isn't it? It's like you can see
Quite
how many
surreal.
people it is. Yeah. I think,
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a rider?
We've never. We normally do our own riders, Danny. It's quite sad.
Because I've never
Pinot
had one.
Grigio.
I have comedy riders.
Do you?
But I don't have.
Do you actually?
Yeah. If they're offering.
What? Well,
It's normally wine.
wine. Yeah.
Wine.
A Pinot Grigio.
A Pinot Grigio.
Do you get
the
asked for your
occasional sausage.
rider?
Well, no, this is the thing. I've never asked and never been given. And someone said to me the other day, "Why don't you have a rider?" And I was like, "Why don't I have a rider?"
You should have a rider.
What?
No one tells
the
you
other
the
night,
rules.
if you want to know how unglamorous this is, the other night I went out in the pouring rain to the local Tesco to get my bottle of Huel, my liquid food, and my.
Oh, you're not a Hewler, Danny.
Danny, we're
I
gonna
have
have to
been
stop this
recently.
now.
Oh, for God's
Yeah, I
sake.
know it's horrible, but
A meal in a bottle.
and like my banana and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Coming back drenched, wet, went on stage wet and soggy, and I was like, why haven't I been insisting on like foie gras
I
and a
think you
Caesar
need
salad?
to, you need to be more of a diva, Danny.
I also we did on our last live show we did a love potion because we do a section called We Get Haunted So You Don't Have to where we try and contact the dead, and I was doing lovely. I was doing a love potion in a massive pumpkin outfit, so I had to go to Tesco and buy like wine, chocolate, prawn cocktail crisps. It was pretty minging love potion, basil, and all. I was like, why am I? This is not glamorous in the slightest.
Did you chuck any Huel in there or not?
Next time,
I think
it might actually be made with the dead Huel.
Yeah, it does
Probably
taste of
is,
like
actually.
Jewish
in the way the
dust.
Victorians kind of took mummy dust and kind of made things like that.
That's exactly.
It is vile. It is so vile. I just
even on the
cannot.
adverts, they're like, doesn't this look amazing?
Yeah.
It's like,
However, if Huel would like to sponsor the podcast, we love it.
We're very open.
It's been designed for like a world where we never stop working, like where you're chained to your desk or the kind of gig economy kind of thing. You know, you food on the move. You just drink your food.
Do you reckon you would be one of those people that you take that little pill that would just give you a meal for the entire day if you could just swallow it and you're done?
No, I'm the sort of person who I would rather eat nice food. You know, I would take no food over horrible food in a way. Like, you know, I'll wait until I can get that nice food or that nice coffee. Or whatever,
So the Huel just tides you over until you can have the
yeah,
nice meal.
well, I know the Huel is just I don't know. I mean, touring is weird. Like I've just been eating rubbish food, and it's
Comedy
it's a strange
is
life.
a very similar vibe. Is that you will eat every product that Ginsters has ever made in a day.
Interesting. Ginsters or Ginsters? I'd always thought Ginsters.
Maybe it is Ginsters.
Let's call the whole thing
I
off.
think
I think I'm too worried about getting it wrong.
Ginsters for
I
me.
say I'm so certain on some things, and then I'm proven wrong. I'm trying.
Email in now, ginsters or ginsters.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like a band at the moment. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to be in a band. I had so many Rockstar dreams. I was in a band as a kid called Structure of the Nephron, which was a bit of your kidneys that you had to draw. And in biology class, we drew the structure of the nephron. I was like, that's a great name for a band. It's not at all. But anyway.
I think it sounds quite Egyptian.
I mean, anyway,
don't start that,
we were
Susan.
like, hello, we are Structure of the Nephron.
Yeah.
And I had a song called Kill Your Dog for Satan.
Oh, no.
No, don't kill your dog for Satan.
No, but that's a true, like, high
Emo.
school emo band, isn't that? That's a song.
Performed it on stage. I was terrible. I can't sing at all. I'm so unmusical that, in like a play or a pantomime when you have to clap along with the songs.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I have to air clap. I have to pretend
Oh,
to clap
really?
to avoid embarrassment. Yeah. So.
It's a bit more embarrassing doing this, I think.
So I'm just so unmusical, and so this, for me, the Uncanny Tour is me living my Rockstar dreams.
Do you have a musical section?
No, but it's just
you know what?
I come
Uncanny
out,
the musical, I'd watch that.
yes, me too. But I'd come out in a cloud of dry ice, and that's me living my Rockstar dreams.
You know what? It's never too late, Danny.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I think that might be the next thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on because we're comedians, and I believe that you dabbled, or were you?
You're a stand-up comic.
You're a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I more than dabbled. I did a lot. I mean, I started when I was about 16 years old.
Really?
Performing in the pubs and clubs of the Northeast. I grew up in Newcastle, and I was performing around like Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Hartlepool, Sunderland, Darlington, all these kind of places.
At the age that sounds early to be put to
16,
work
17,
for
18,
comedy.
yeah. I was like that's what they do in the Northeast, sort of child labour. You
Send
get
them out
put out there,
early.
send out, get up on that stage, lad, do some stuff.
Like that joke, lad.
But I was friends with Ross Noble, who you will know of, and he was this kind of wunderkind. He was like this kind of Mozart of stand-up comedy, performing in venues where he was too young to drink, but just kind of blowing people away. And I tagged along, and I was his support act for a bit, doing some of these pubs, and it was a kind of baptism of fire. If you can do that, then I guess you can do anything. Stand up stands you in good stead, doesn't it?
Yes, everything is easy in comparison to if you're in the middle of a Toby Carvery doing comedy to three people who absolutely do not want you there.
Yeah.
That's
there's nothing worse than doing comedy to people who are eating.
Yeah. I once did an after-dinner speech to a conference of clergy people who it was like the lights didn't work, so they couldn't see me, and they were all eating and they were ignoring me, and that's probably the most ignored and the worst I've ever felt in my life.
Like, hello?
But you know what? After you come off, you're like, nothing will be as bad.
No, it's very true.
Nothing will be as bad
very
as
true.
that. So would you ever go back to it?
Well, I sort of feel like I channel my inner stand-up when I'm doing this show now, and I think as you do in your show, I use humour.
Yes.
And I think it's important, you to talk about this subject, which could be very dark,
Yes.
the subject of death and
Absolutely,
frightening things. I think humour is important. And I remember really clearly, actually, going to see The Woman in Black when I was a teenager, and every time people screamed and jumped, the next thing they did was laughed.
Yeah.
Yes, there was
And
a
I
ripple
noticed
of
that, and I
laughter.
thought, wow, that's an amazing thing. It's our response to jeopardy, to fear. We want to laugh, we want to reassure
nervous.
ourselves. And in my play 222, A Ghost Story, I mix comedy and fear, and I think I do it in Uncanny as well. And
Definitely.
And I think it's humanity. It's what
Yeah.
we need.
It's
We
such
need
a-
light and dark.
Yeah, it's such a perfect marriage, though, because you're right. It's something that's going to happen to every single one of us, and it's if you can kind of just take it in and embrace it and laugh, and it just changes the game, really. And I think a lot of people feel that way, which is why people
So
love ghost
interesting
podcasts.
fact, me and Hannah actually bonded over 222 A Ghost Story.
Oh, right,
I was like,
okay.
it's so good, you have to see it, because we were obsessed with The Woman in Black.
I've seen it like 3 times.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I came to the PR night.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
I saw you there from afar.
Yeah,
Didn't come and say
Well,
that. It sounds a bit creepy.
the
now,
very
doesn't it?
first one with Lily
It
Lily
was
Allen.
no. It was when was it? It was no Cheryl.
Oh, okay,
When you
Cheryl,
went
yeah.
All night for Cheryl. And that was I was just standing. I did see you, Danny. No, it sounds a bit creepy, but please don't call the police.
I was watching it.
Yeah, but I was. And it's just it's again it's such a great play. For anyone that hasn't seen it, you've got to go and see it. The
It's
end was
fantastic.
superb.
But I've always
The whole
said
thing was great.
when Woman in Black ended, I just thought, this is a no-brainer. It was so good being in a theatre, getting spooked to hell, jump scares and all of that. And I saw that 5 times when I was a teenager. And like one of the times I just went with my friend and we just shut our eyes and closed our ears during the bits that we knew were going to be scary. Why did we go and spend our money? I don't know. But we were so obsessed with it.
It's great. And you know what? It works so well to scare people in a theatre. And I think it's way more visceral than a film.
Yeah.
There's something about being surrounded by actual bodies and grabbing onto people and you know, just that. I mean, the magic of theatre, the way it kind of brings it to life for you in a very visceral way. But before 222 came out, I could feel this wave of distrust from like the critical establishment about like, oh, a ghost play and you know, something that deals with genre, horror play, and you know, thankfully we came out and we surprised people and people liked it. And now, you know, there's lots of. I look around, I see so many ghost plays touring the country. Like, you know, the Enfield Haunting is coming to the West End, and I think hopefully we've sort of opened the door that this is okay again, because I think there was a kind of definite sniffiness about it, and it's so silly because every time a really good scary play comes out, like Ghost Stories by Andy Nyman, Jeremy
that was
Dyson,
so good.
You know, Woman in Black, The Weir by Colin McPherson. If people don't know that one, that's another brilliant. Frightening play. But it's like every decade one comes out and is brilliant, but then we sort of collectively forget and we sort of think, oh, that doesn't work, you know.
Yeah. I think you've put paranormal back on the map.
You're the Beyonce of the paranormal world.
Very kind. I mean,
you really and truly are.
Yeah, we'll coin that. So take
you can
that
have
wherever
that on
you
your
want.
on a t-shirt if you want, Danny.
I love it. I think, you know, I think people have wanted to talk about this. Someone came up to me the other night at a book signing and they said, why haven't we been talking about this? They were like, you know, back in the 70s, 80s, there were these shows like Arthur C. Clarke and Strange But True that, you know, people of a certain age will remember. And, you know, but after that, like most of the paranormal content that we've consumed in our lifetimes has been packaged in a way that's very sensationalist. It's that kind of night vision cameras and screaming and mediums channeling spirits on command just in time for the commercial break, you know. And you know, it's fun, and I, you know, I'm not knocking those shows. They're entertaining and they're fun, but it's you know, it's a certain form of it that plays to the converted, if you like, preaches to the converted.
Absolutely,
it's just for the people who really, really believe in that, and it never questions any of it. And I think taking it back to a kind of thing where, you know, skeptics and believers alike can talk about this and debate stuff, and where you're kind of probing these mysteries. And, you know, there's deep, dark mysteries of UFOs and ghosts and all that kind of thing. And the human
stories behind them as well. I just find it, because it's all the psychological aspect. It's grief, it's heartbreak.
Totally.
You know,
and it's, you know, it's what every religion ever created was founded on, trying to make sense of what happens to us when we die and why we are here.
Yeah.
So after you've obviously, you know, haunted, you've done the Enfield, the Battersea Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And now Uncanny. Are you any closer to believing? Because you're a skeptic who wants it to be true.
That's what I would say. Yeah. I mean, the short answer is yes. I would say. I mean, I think if you listen to Haunted, the first show I did, which that was spawned from my research for 222, A Ghost Story. I was just asking around on social media for stories, and people started sending them to me, and I was like, God, this is amazing. Got to do something with this. But I think you hear a more skeptical me in that show, and I think, you know, Battersea was a kind of huge kind of shift for me, a kind of watershed moment, I guess. And the closest I get to saying I believe is saying that I cannot explain these stories. You know, people send me these stories, and, you know, I guess I wouldn't be telling them if I could explain them. But you know, it troubles me that. And I think, you know, you were talking before we started about getting sent stories that frighten you. Yeah. I think, you know, what frightens me is the implications of it. You know, that idea that there is something more out there, and that maybe we do come back. And, you know, the idea of if we come back, how we come back is...
And why we come back.
Big and terrifying,
and why would we come back to scare the shit out of the people that we love?
Totally.
Why are we doing that?
Yeah. Oh, I would. Yeah. Oh, because it's fucking hilarious. I would I'd do it all. I'd be rattling the coat hangers and I'd be pulling the bed sheets. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so
vomiting ectoplasm.
It's going to be brilliant. I can't wait.
Well, Danny, we've got a tarot section. We've kicked off the podcast already.
Yes,
but if you would do us the honour of just focusing on the cards and just seeing which one calls to you, and then pick one out, pop it on the stand, and then I'll look in my the key to the tarot.
Can I tell you?
Or do you not believe in this?
Can I tell you that I'm genuinely nervous about this?
Because, really?
I mean, I'm ridiculously superstitious. To the point, to a kind of ludicrous point where I used to like not walk on drains and kind of brush my teeth in a certain way because I thought it would bring me good luck. And even though I would describe myself as skeptically minded, like the idea of doing a Ouija board, for instance, totally freaks me the shizzle out. And tarot, I don't know, just there's
we
something
don't have
that
to,
feels
to be honest. We don't.
slightly daunting about it. Like,
Absolutely
Because
fine.
what the tarot will bring is energy to what this podcast will be. Nothing on you. It won't stick on you.
what if I draw death then?
No, death's a good thing.
Death's rebirth.
That's a good card. It's rebirth.
Although, listen,
Because you said you're going for a haircut. Maybe that's what it could mean.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
I could die during my haircut. You know.
Oh, you
mean,
could.
one false
any
move
point,
with those
Danny.
scissors, you know.
it's completely up to you. Do not feel forced to do it.
Could you draw one for me?
Yes, but I tell you
Go
what we
on,
will
Hannah.
do before that. We've got you a little gift.
Oh, okay,
We
wow.
do.
And this might help you. So we've got you. We don't have many guests. We only pick the creme de la creme.
Okay.
To come on this podcast.
Indeed.
Which means that we can
Very
afford.
few people agree
which
to come on.
means- yeah, no one.
They don't want to come here.
Which means that we can afford. Those guests.
Okay.
So
Have I
we've
got the entire
you.
guest budget now? Have
Yeah,
I?
you've got
Right,
it
okay.
all. You
Right.
are going home with a new car. So we've got you a gift there. That's the first one.
Let's have a look.
That is.
Like, oh my God! It's,
It's
a
a-
severed finger.
It's a,
Yes,
it's
you
a,
Crikey.
lucky Danny.
Yeah.
It's Hannah's toe.
Walking with a limp.
Black.
It's
black.
a crystal.
It's a crystal.
It's a
Black.
crystal.
From
black
Brazil.
tourmaline
That's
from
there
Brazil.
for protection.
Wow.
So that will be no dying in the barber's shop chair today.
We just figured, Danny, you hear so many of these stories. We don't want an
No.
evil spirit to attach itself to you.
No,
So this crystal looks a lot like a lump of coal.
it just.
And I'm going to get you a Satsuma later, and that's your Christmas present.
Then we can tell Victorian ghost stories. No, that's there to protect you. Every guest that's come on here has had a crystal, and let
Okay.
me tell you now,
Yeah.
every single one of those two people is still alive. So
I'm now
news.
further agonised because I feel like if I lose this crystal, it'll bring me
Oh
bad luck.
no, we've given you a lot of anxiety in this.
well,
in a
this
short
one,
time
this
we've
one's
been.
a little bit less ominous.
Okay, okay.
That is. I'll just wait for you to open it first, and I'll explain what it
Okay,
is.
all right.
So this is for your throat and your mind chakra because you're doing a lot of live shows.
Yeah.
We want your throat to be all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your voice
Sounds quite
obviously
ominous.
does
Wow.
throat.
We want your throat to be.
Wow, wow,
we
yeah,
want
yeah,
your
yeah. So what
Terrifying.
is
And
this?
that's a
Oh,
sapphire.
wow. Sapphire.
So
okay.
as long as you don't lose any of those, if you do, you're in big trouble and we can't do anything
Wow,
about
wow.
it. But you know,
Yeah, so just keep that in
so
mind.
just
That's
make
amazing.
sure that's you got wallet, keys, sapphire, tourmaline.
That's great. What is the further lump of plastic that's arrived? Is that
No,
like a
that's
display
just
stand?
landfill.
I think that's
yeah.
a stand for it. Yeah, I think that's that's just. We just try and
not
recycle,
helping
really,
the
Danny.
environment.
I will display my sapphire. That's great.
Display it. But yeah, we can pick one for you. Absolutely. Shall I go?
I think you should, Hannah.
Okay. Maybe we're dabbling too much in it because we do Ouija
Well,
boards
listen,
on a weekly.
Just to let you know,
Do you really?
We do them quite.
Yeah,
a
we
lot,
do them
yeah.
quite
Oh, wow.
a lot.
So-
We never cleaned it.
You've got
Yeah,
a dirty Ouija
well,
board.
we
Dirty Ouija
we had a dirty Susie's dirty Ouija board.
Yeah, it's
Now that's a podcast, isn't it? Yeah, welcome to Dirty Ouija Board.
Susie's dirty Ouija
We
board.
went on a ghost hunt with a lady called Psychic Tracy, who's
yeah.
magnificent, and
Okay.
she was like, "You've never cleaned your Ouija." She made us feel really bad. It was
Yeah,
like
I
a teacher
felt
selling
like
it.
a-
Are we
Right
talking about
swag.
psychic cleansing here, or actual cleansing?
Well, we thought it was
I
psychic.
think an
She was
actual
like,
wash,
actually,
Danny,
just,
yeah.
Lots
just a
of
bit
fingerprints.
dirty. Yeah.
I had an amazing Ouija board moment recently. We were doing a live show, and I said, "Has anybody had an experience with a Ouija board?" And two women put up their hands, sitting next to each other, and I was like, "Wow, that's a coincidence." Two of them both sitting next to each other, and one of them starts saying, "Yeah, so I just want to say to all my friends who ever did Ouija board with me, it was me. I faked it all. It was me always moving it." And the other woman next to her just slowly put her hand down and just went, oh my God. And she'd had this amazing story to tell about how they'd contacted lots of people, and then she realised it was all
No
fake.
Oh, that's so
way.
upsetting.
It was kind of heartbreaking. And she
Oh,
sort of turned
that's
to her friend and went,
so
how
upsetting.
could you not have told me that all these
I've
years?
just put
you
my
know?
hand up and
Yeah,
live
yeah,
show.
Yeah.
The heartbreak of the lowered hand.
Yeah.
I remember I mean, everyone's got one of these stories, but I remember my granddad saying, my granddad used to be a very straight-laced kind of guy, you know, always wore a suit, working very hard, like, no nonsense, none of that. But if you ever mentioned a Ouija board, he would just go white and he would just say, never mess with things that you don't understand. And he'd done one with his friends. He never went into details, but he was like, the consequences will be horrific. Never do one. And I
Yeah,
obviously
well-
completely agree.
Well, I
with
mean,
that.
I think, you know, the consequences don't have to be paranormal, do they? If the
No.
consequences get in your head and kind
Yeah.
of lodge in your head, that idea of transgression of us opening a Pandora's box is such a... it really eats into us as human beings.
Yeah.
So many horror movies are based on that idea that you've done the thing you shouldn't do.
Yeah, you crossed a line and there's
you
no
played
coming
the
back.
videotape in the ring, or have you seen It Follows?
Oh, the STI that...
Yeah.
I've not actually seen
Sexually
I
transmitted
haven't seen it.
horror. Like, if you have sex with the wrong person, this horrific thing will follow you forevermore.
That's a bit too real.
Yeah,
for me.
it is. I know. It's like a
oh.
very modern kind of...
Like sexual health at
Absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that freaks us out, the idea it's our fault. We can get away with it being somebody else doing stuff to us, but when it's our own fault, it's horrible.
That poor woman, I'm so sad for her.
I think I've said this on the pod before, but I remember my mum saying she went for, I think, a tarot reading, or maybe it was a palm reading, I can't remember. But she was in her early 20s, and this woman looked at her hand and said, "You're going to die young." And I think that's so irresponsible to say that.
No, totally.
And she said she's never forgotten it. And she was like, please don't go to any of these people, because she said it lodged in her brain.
It's horrific. It's horrific. Someone close to me was on a gap year going around the Far East, and went to a fortune teller, and they looked at his hand. They said, "You will get divorced." And he's never married his partner. And I think that is a factor.
I bet she's like,
That's so weird, isn't it? That we take, like, you can be as
Yeah.
skeptical as you like, but you go, oh,
Yeah.
there's something in it. I mean, Madam Maggie, who's like... Anyway,
Yeah.
let's not go into Madam Maggie. Hannah, pick a
Okay,
tarot.
let's pick a tarot.
Okay, go on.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my eyelash just nearly stuck to my face.
What is it?
Oh, this is a very jovial person.
Oh, good.
It's
See?
the Page of Swords.
The Page
That
of
can't be
Swords.
bad,
That
can
can't be
it?
bad. Look at that. Look at those
Yeah.
colours.
Oh,
like
we're
a-
fine.
Danny,
Yeah.
you've got the same colour jumper on.
Wow.
That's quite weird.
There we go. And sort
That's
of
you holding a
Look
sword.
at that.
strapping yellow
That's
tights.
you lopping your own hair off.
And he's got a big chopper.
big
He's
chopper.
got a really,
And
a
you
really
can
big sword.
Dye your hair blonde
There we go.
today.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Imagine
Okay.
what people would say.
Okay.
Right. The Page
Page of Swords.
Okay, let's...
That is a bit weird, that jumper situation, isn't it? That's almost
Yeah, I think you've Okay, who's... I
colour
can't...
for colour.
Who's the page? Let's have a look. This is one of those things again where I can't find the... We should be better versed in tarot, if I'm honest, but we're not.
We've got absolutely no idea what we're
I've
doing.
just got this little book that I rely on. We... Oh, hang on. No, that's the Wheel of Fortune. Oh, Christ. Okay.
Do you want me to Google it?
Yeah, could you?
Page of Swords.
Oh, I've got him.
Oh, you've got
here we
it.
go.
Okay.
I've got
right,
him.
go on.
Okay.
I'll brace myself.
This means death
Don't go
at
to the bar.
the salon. So the Page of Swords resembles someone who is full of energy and
yeah.
ideas, eager to share. It suggests a new form of communication.
Ooh, like
I think
podcasting.
that's.
Yeah.
I think that's.
What a mad idea.
Sharing stories. I think that's a bit on the nose.
I think that's absolutely apt. So,
Yeah.
shall we kick off with? Would you like to hear a listener story?
I would.
And then we're going to decide after what you think.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll have your expert opinion
Okay,
on
okay.
what you think's
No,
going
look forward to
on.
it.
We don't have your lovely team of skeptic and believer,
No.
but
Maybe
anyway.
we can. You know,
we're
step in.
both quite skeptical, but yeah. All
I
right.
can play any side.
Okay. This is from Sabrina.
Okay.
This is a true story and the only paranormal experience I've ever had. I always thought I was a skeptic when it came to the paranormal, but this has swayed my opinion. My son and I lived in a lovely 2-bedroom ground floor flat in Upton in Dorset. We moved into the flat in September 2019. My son was just under 3 at the time. The first couple of months in the flat were great, nothing to report. That December was my son's 3rd birthday. He got a pop-up circus tent as a present from his
sorry.
dad.
You're already going to get haunted.
Yeah.
That is the most.
Grim. Absolutely vile.
It came with clowns.
Yeah.
Sabrina, this is completely your.
He loved it, and as soon as he had opened it up, he wanted me to put it up in his room. He would play in it all the time with his teddies and blankets, having a blast. A few days after his birthday, I noticed he would talk in his tent. Assuming he was chatting to his teddies, I didn't think much of it. Except whenever I'd walk down the hallway to his bedroom, he would stop. He can't see me in the hallway from his room, and the floor under the carpet was concrete. Walking in the flat was pretty much silent, and I could never hear what was being said. As I would get to this door and look around, he would be looking out of his tent with an adorable smile. Everything seemed fine. He would spend all his time in the tent, which, thinking back on it, gives me the creeps. I asked him about why he likes to spend time in the tent so much and if I could come in and play with him and his teddies. He looked at me sternly and said, "No, Mummy, you can't." I asked why. My son said, "Stephen said no."
Oh, no.
Not gonna lie, I shit myself.
Yeah.
Love it.
You would, wouldn't you? So.
I left it at that for a few days, asking my mum for advice. She isn't into the ghost scene, but is a lot more spiritual than I am. She had told me to ask some more questions to see if this was just your standard imaginary friend or something more sinister. The next day, I asked my son, "What do you and Stephen talk about?" My son was eating his dinner and replied, "We talk about what I do at Shelley's," his childminder, "and we play games, and we talk about you, Mummy." I was freaked out at the end part. What about me? I asked my son what Stephen looked like. He has a stripy suit and a funny hat.
Wally. Like, where's Wally?
Yeah, a bit like what I'm
Oh, yeah, you got...
It's me! I'm
You
Stephen.
would be terrified if your child was talking to Susie, to be fair.
A stripy suit and a funny hat. Was he little like you or big like Mummy? I said. Old like Gruffy, his granddad. And he'd blow smoke like a dragon, he smiled. Oh, that's nice. My palms are sweating. Is he nice?
Smoker. For your child to imagine.
Yeah, you're like, this is not responsible. Is he nice? I asked. Sometimes. He shrugged his shoulders and asked if he could go and play. I said, sure. He was probably tired from the day, as was I, and I didn't want to talk anymore. He was playing in his tent, as usual. I made a start on washing up from dinner. Our kitchen sink faces the window out into the communal garden, though no one ever uses it. As I was drying up, I stared through the window in an exhausted gaze when I saw in the reflection a figure. It walks behind me through the hallway into the lounge. I jumped and spun around, assuming it was my son coming to look for me, even though the figure was much larger than my 3-year-old. I put my head into the lounge. Empty. I walked towards my son's room and stood in the doorway. There he was, playing in his tent, like he always did. Before I had time to think about what had happened, a strong stench of stale smoke wafted into my face. Then, quick as it came, it was gone. I thought maybe someone was in the garden smoking outside the window, so I shut the small window that was slightly open and went back to the kitchen. After the bedtime routine, I kissed my son and put him to bed. As I kissed him goodnight, he said, "Say goodnight to Stephen, Mummy." My eyes wide as I followed my son's gaze towards the tent. "Good night, Stephen," I said. I looked back at my son. He smiled and blew me a kiss. I just sat down for the evening, book in hand, hot cuppa on the coffee table, blanket over my legs, when the lounge had suddenly become freezing. I don't mean your typical January winter evening cold. I mean inside of an industrial meat freezer cold. I could see my breath. I jumped up, checking the windows. They were all closed. I went into the hallway. The thermometer was set to its normal temperature and the radiators were warm. I walked back into the lounge. The warmth of the radiators hit me. That's odd, I thought. I was about to sit down. I thought I could hear coughing coming from my son's room. I got up to check on him. As I walked through and checked on my son, soundly sleeping, I almost didn't notice the shadow inside the tent. If it wasn't for the glow of the moon through the window, it almost consumed the whole tent. My body tensed, tears welling up in my eyes as I stepped forward, quickly pulling the curtain of the tent to the side. Nothing, just some teddies, a pad and some pencils. I sighed. I must be more tired than I thought. Then the stale smoke hit me again. This time it seemed to come straight at me from inside the tent. I stand up and gently pick up my son, sound asleep in my arms. I put him into my bed and I climb in beside him. I couldn't stop thinking about what he had said. I couldn't stop seeing the shadow in the tent, the memory flashing through my head. I kept thinking about all the weird happenings in the house and how there must be an explanation for all of it. When I hear my phone buzz, it's my childminder. "Hello," I say. "Oh, hiya, nothing to worry about. I just wanted to call and speak about some things your son has said to me today," she said, worried. I had a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. "Okay," I said hesitantly. "Has your son ever mentioned Stephen?" My childminder said. "Oh yeah, he's been speaking about him lately. It's just his imaginary friend," I say. Who was I trying to convince, her or myself? "Well, he's been saying that Stephen doesn't like you," she said, stammering as she spoke. What the fuck? I was shocked and a little disgusted. He told me today that Stephen didn't like you moving your son in the night. He said he had to sit on the end of the bed and that he was angry with you. She spoke quietly as not to alert any of the kids in the setting. Oh my God, I said, sitting at my desk at work trying to hold back tears. I spent my lunch Googling how to get rid of a ghost. I felt stupid, but at the time I was so scared to go home with my son. I phoned my mum and we went over to hers for dinner that night. I'd bought some sage from a little shop in town on my way. Good idea.
Very good,
Get the fucking
and
sage.
some Himalayan rock salt.
Yeah,
as well.
get the salt, spray it everywhere. You can't spray salt, but if you could. I bought some sage from a little shop in town on my way and I planned on burning it when I got home. I mean, that's what the internet had told me to do. The article I read told me to speak to the ghost and tell them that they are not welcome and they need to leave bluntly and strongly. It said to do it where there is most activity in the home. Oh God, that fucking tent, I thought. Fucking circus tent. I should never have got it.
Burn the goddamn
Burn the tent.
to the ground.
This is literally intense.
No, it is. He's a comedian. Oh my God. Ross Noble, step aside. I get home, put my son to sleep in my bed for the night. I light the sage and walk through the entire house, wafting the sage in all corners of our home. I then come to the doorway into my son's bedroom, taking a deep breath and telling myself, stop being a pussy. I walk in, sage in hand. I crouch down and climb inside the tent, leaving the tent curtains open so as not to smoke myself out with the sage. You are not welcome in our home. You need to leave, I said sternly and with conviction. I said it a couple of times, then I smelt it again. The stale smoke in the fucking tent. I bolted out so quickly I picked up the tent, dismantled it and threw it into the large communal bins. I did not want that in my house anymore. I had to explain to my son that the tent broke. He was obviously really upset. To cheer him up, I told him we were going to take a trip to Monkey World. I don't know what that is, but it sounds great. I want to go to Monkey World. He's 3. He forgot he even had a tent after that news. I was getting ready in my bedroom for our exciting trip, my son playing in his room. When suddenly, I heard a blood-curdling scream come from my son. I dropped what I was doing and ran in. He was standing in the room, white as a sheet, visibly shaking. I rushed over, checking his body, thinking he fell off his bed or something. I hugged him and told him it would be okay and that Mummy's here. As his head was resting on my shoulder, he whispered in my ear, I don't like Stephen anymore.
Oh, God.
After that, I terminated my tenancy and we stayed with my parents until we could find somewhere else. My son has never spoken about what happened in that room. And since we've left, he's never seen or spoken about Stephen again. Thank you. Love your podcast and I hope you enjoy my story. It still chills me to this day.
Oh my God.
Blimey, bloody hell.
So, bloody hell, Sabrina.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I had serious shivers, multiple shivers.
Yeah.
They're very well read, by the way.
Thank
Well,
you.
that was
I really
very
tried.
well.
I was there like, ooh.
That was very good.
That was quite something.
Yeah.
And, you know, it gets to the heart of a real fear that all of us have, like, whether you are a parent yourself, as I am, and you're frightened for your kids, or we've all been kids, and you all know how it feels to be frightened as a kid. You know, just that.
Yeah.
You know,
Kids
there's a
are quite
reason why
spooky,
kids
though.
keep coming up in ghost stories and horror stories. It just, you know, it's that really
The
kind
innocence.
of that horrible fear. Yeah, a child in danger. It's very affecting.
Yeah, it is. And who the fuck is Stephen? Why is he blowing smoke in the tent?
Yeah.
He's in my head. He's some old
Put up a no
circus
smoking
owner,
and
and
The uncertainty. I mean, I sometimes say the thing that frightens us most as human beings is uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, not knowing if this is a ghost or
Yeah.
if it's something in his mind or, you know, what, you know, if it's like a real person coming in,
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah,
what is
yeah.
going on there? The film that has absolutely shat me up the most in recent times is The Babadook. Have you seen that?
Oh,
Yes.
it's terrifying.
And
Oh,
you spend
God.
the entire movie not sure if this is going on in the head of the mother or if it's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
a sort of horrible supernatural monster coming to get her. And I think, you know, just, you know, any parent has anxieties about whether they're looking after their kid properly, bringing up their kid properly. And that when that anxiety spills over into, like, you know, is my house haunted? You know, am I endangering my child by continuing to live in this
I
house?
know. It's just the worst trope. Kids are the
Yeah.
creepiest.
Kids are creepy.
You know, and
Kids
this is
are
the thing.
so
I mean, this is the
creepy.
thing that we've got to acknowledge is that kids are creepy, absolutely creepy,
They are.
and they say weird stuff. Like my eldest son
Mm.
routinely told me when he was younger that he'd been talking to Penguin in the night.
Oh,
And
God.
Penguin would come and talk to him, and it did get to the point where I started to feel like, is Penguin real because they tell it to you in such a convincing way,
and it's so visceral for them.
My nephew will often just like look up into the corner and go, and you're like, can you stop that, you little weirdo? That's horrible.
Or sleepwalking. If kids sleepwalk and suddenly they're just at the top of the stairs in the dark.
And night terrors are very common. But let's put that to one side. Obviously, in any case, you're looking at kind of sleep-related things, sleep-related hallucinations, and certainly with kids' imaginary friends. But I mean, this has a lot to it. I mean, this is a case that if this was coming my way for an uncanny investigation, I'd feel there was real meat on the bones here. There's a lot to it. Let's talk about the smell.
The smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, the waft of smoke.
It's interesting. I think smell is the most evocative of all our senses. It's the thing that plunges us back. There's one case that I did on my Haunted series a few years ago about a woman who smelt her husband's scent in her house. And it was Lynx Africa. And it,
oh, God.
And it was,
wow.
It was this, sounds, kind of, just mundane, almost comic, but it just, for her, it totally evoked him. Yeah. And it was incredibly powerful. It made her feel that he was close to her. It takes us back. Cigarette smoke is something that comes up in a lot of cases. And what I would say is that I remember very clearly a moment in my teenage years where our house smelt of cigarette smoke. And the reason it smelled of cigarette smoke was because that cigarette smoke was actually coming through the walls of the next door house from the students who lived there. And it was literally, you could see, they were having a party and you could see the cigarette smoke from their house in our house. It had wafted through.
Oh my God.
Yeah, mad.
That's strong.
It had wafted through the walls of this Victorian house, leaky kind of, cavities and walls and all that sort of thing. It come through. Cigarette smoke is something that travels, and all of us have had moments where we get cigarette smoke on our clothes from being
maybe
somewhere.
That's true. My mum says often in our house, she often, every now and then, she'll be going up into the attic and she'll smell cigarette smoke. And that's her only kind of paranormal thing. She's like, I think it maybe is attached to someone who maybe used to smoke in the house. I'm like, no, it will be coming in from somewhere. But, the neighbours aren't really around on either side. So, but like you said, it does travel.
I'm being devil's advocate here. I think the skeptic explanation would be, where was that tent from? Did she say it was second-hand or modern? I can't remember. But either way, was it bought from somewhere where somebody had smoked? Or
maybe it's a haunted object. It's like the Elton. We listened to the Elton episode today.
It's just like that.
It's a bit like that. Maybe there's something attached to the tent.
Because when they moved, that was it, wasn't it? Nothing else. They didn't experience anything else. So, but whatever was in the house was using the telephone to communicate. Apparently, that seems
no, totally. I mean, but I bought a chair from an antique shop, and I loved it. It was this brilliant kind of armchair, and I thought, I'm going to love this. And it stank of cigarette smoke, and I thought, it'll go after a while. Yeah. And it never did. It always smelled of the person who'd sat in it and probably died in it. And eventually we got it reupholstered, and finally the cigarette smoke went. But it's amazing how pungent and how persistent cigarette smoke is. It sticks around. So I think that you could absolutely have an object that you bought that smelled of cigarette smoke, and you might not clock it at first. I didn't really clock it at first with that chair, and then over time, it reeks of that. So I think that that would be the skeptic take on this. But I think what's really interesting, what really is affecting about this story is the kind of consistency of the way the child talks about Stephen.
Yeah. And the turnaround he has at the end when he goes, I don't like Stephen.
Yeah.
When it starts to get sinister. Unless the kid is picking up on her energy.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is possible. Can I ask a question? When you get, a story that you're like, actually, this is quite intriguing, and you follow it further, in this case, would you have spoken to Sabrina and just had an interview with her?
On our show, we sort of talk to people, and we do the interview kind of fairly early on, and
try and investigate more.
and get them to sort of tell it in their own words. And I think it's really interesting. I think the email is often the most kind of factually correct version of telling it, because you've really sat down and you've really, really thought about it. So whenever we're doing the interviews, the original email is always like the North Star, the kind of compass that we use, because that's somebody's had a long time to think about it, the chronology of it, and putting it all down. So on. But I mean, as human beings, we remember things by constructing a narrative. Like we do put things together, and sometimes when someone's telling the story, I'm like, oh, actually, in the email you said, that actually happened in March, not May or whatever, and they go, oh yeah, you're right, and how
you can't like unreliable.
How you remember it when you're telling it isn't always the way it happened, and I always think like a ghost story is about conveying the fear that you felt in that moment to other people, and so we tell it in the most frightening way possible, and there is a tendency to exaggerate, to kind of ramp it up, because you felt so frightened. You want them to be frightened. You want, you've got to process your fear, and so you try and
almost to try and
make
convince
people.
the reader.
Totally.
Theory that you only ever remember your memory, isn't there? So you never remember what happened.
Yeah.
Yes, and as it gets more and more removed,
there's a brilliant collection of short stories by Jeremy Dyson, who wrote Ghost Stories, the play, and was part of the League of Gentlemen, the non-performing member of the League of Gentlemen. And he wrote this book called Never Trust a Rabbit. It's a great collection of short stories. And one of those short stories is about a man who is cursed by a magician, I think. And the curse is that he will always remember things how they actually happened and not how he would like to remember them.
Wow.
And it's that kind of brutal thing that he remembers it in all its kind of embarrassing
we end
kind
up
of
putting the
warts and all
rose
thing.
tinted,
Yeah. We construct things in a more favourable way in our heads.
Wow.
But I think that's interesting. But I'm kind of giving I find myself in the unusual position of, without a skeptic expert here, I'm giving the skeptic
I know.
side of this.
Danny, you've got the skeptic hat on.
But yeah.
But I think you kind of have to, when you're looking at these things, to take them. You have to kind of give yourself both. Both sides.
I do think I'm not in any way dismissing Sabrina's experience, and I think there's absolutely loads to this, and I think it's a case really worthy of investigation, and that it's deeply unsettling, and I think, having a child at the heart of it, it's very, very easy for skeptics to dismiss that. They can say, it's just a child's imagination. Children imagine things all the time. But there's also a counter-argument that we are more receptive when we are our kids, and we haven't yet crossed into a thing where we sort of close ourselves off to these things. And when I look back, even not as a kid, but as a kind of young, kind of in my early 20s as a student, I look back I found the letters that I wrote when I was a student to some of my mates in my attic recently. And it was like seeing a different me, like a totally different person. I was this sponge, so receptive to the world, so excited about the world, just lapping it up, soaking stuff up, this kind of amazing sensory overload of just being alive and experiencing things. And now I'm jaded and horrible and
you're not.
ground down.
But
it did make me think that I get a lot of emails from people who are students when the paranormal, what they believe was paranormal happened to them. And I do think, you could argue anxiety, you could argue imagination, you could argue all these sort of things, but you could also argue an openness to things, and that maybe, because
you're in that explorative. Explorative? Is that a word?
Explorative.
That old quote that there are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors. Maybe the doors are just a little bit more open when we're in those stages.
Yes.
I absolutely love that.
I love that. Yeah. Hello from Canada, Ghost Huns. And Danny Robins.
Hello back.
I am so in love with your podcast. One day I shall join you all for a show and teach you some slang, because Susie has no idea what's going on with slang. But until then, I have another ghost story for you. I call it The Weekend of Hell.
Oh dear.
In a small Newfoundland town where valleys cradle secrets and mountains stand tall, my weekend of horror unfurled like a tattered tapestry.
Oh, wow.
Stunning.
The imagery.
Gorgeous. Friday. The air was thick with the scent of pine as my parents, lured by the promise of darts and drinks, the classic activity.
Darts and drinks?
Darts and drinks.
That actually sounds great.
That does sound great. I mean, me after a bottle of Chardonnay with a dart. I don't
steer
think so.
clear.
I don't think that's a good idea. Ventured to a friend's house. Their laughter echoed in the streets, leaving me with an irresistible urge to follow. A house nestled on the fringes of the town, sitting atop a small hill, became the stage for our nightmarish play. Very Edward Scissorhands, isn't it? As the night swallowed, this is where Hannah starts laughing. Oh, there's Hannah! Thrilled. This is where Hannah starts laughing. Oh no, that's me! Oh, I thought there was a character in it. Hold on. As the night swallowed, apparently that's where I start laughing. That's my community.
Okay.
Tale, apparently. By daylight, we are a group of unwitting youngsters. Evan, Shelby, Stephen, Sarah. Found ourselves alone. Another Stephen.
I know.
Weird. Our parents departed town to continue their night of dance, music, and drinking. Music has now been. Maybe your band could have been the backdrop to this, Danny. This person is Evan. You've assumed quite a lot of me here. In the dim recesses of the basement rec room, our fate took a malevolent turn. The Ouija board, and then in brackets, Hannah will start saying, "Fuck no, not this shit."
Well, you've said it
now.
now.
Vocabulary is so
a Ouija board covered in darts.
A Ouija board and fingerprints.
A horrible, dirty Ouija board.
An ancient oracle of the occult beckoned to us. In the dancing of flickering candlelight, we posed questions to the ethereal void. How long ago did you die? The planchette moved with an unseen force. 100. That's pretty good, isn't it? What is your name? The room filled with silence as Lucy was spelled out. Lucy's words revealed a tragic demise, a sinister push from the hill her house sat overlooking the road. As we sought further confirmation, a deafening bang erupted from the kitchen above. Knives once sitting on the counter lay scattered on the floor, an unsettling testament to Lucy's presence. In the hushed aftermath, we queried Lucy once more. Was that you, Lucy? Her spectral affirmation lingered, leaving us to... I don't think I can keep doing these long words.
There's a lot of adjectives.
So descriptive.
Leaving us to abandon the Ouija board, oblivious to the pact we had unwittingly forged. Because you can't abandon a Ouija board. As we know, you cannot.
Yeah, if you open the door, you've got to close it.
Yeah, you do.
You have to.
You can't leave that
Saturday. As nightfall painted the town in deep shadows and the four of us found ourselves once again ensnared in a web of supernatural intrigue. Evan, if you're not a writer, honestly, you are wasted. It's like you've swallowed a dictionary.
It's very point horror, this, isn't
it?
Yeah.
I love point horror. We love point horror. As our parents danced in the towns... So these are on like a 24-hour bend to the parents. It's Friday.
They're still playing darts.
Darts non-stop. There we go. Yeah.
They look like that lad in the Page of Swords.
Yeah, you know what? That's very true. Yeah, now it's moved on to like axes. Just throwing them at each other. As our parents danced in the town's nocturnal embrace, we opted for a different brand of terror. Cinematic horror.
Oh my God.
The flickering light of the television cast ominous shadows across the room as we delved into White Noise, which was released in 2005. Midway through the film, the bedroom stereo system, dormant until then, burst into life, a cacophony of music. I'm Gonna Get You by Bizarre Inc. reverberated through the wall. Have we heard that? Do we know what that is? I've never heard that before.
I'm Gonna Get... I don't think... Do you know it?
I'm trying to think.
I'm Gonna Get You by who?
Bizarre Inc.
Bizarre Inc. Are we able to listen to it?
Oh, that's...
I'm going to play it to the mic.
So I'm going to...
Can we use Spotify to listen to it?
Oh, yeah.
It's so on brand, isn't it?
Brilliant.
We will do that. So,
there we go.
So they're all... So
neatly segued there.
They're watching White Noise. Yeah. The stereo starts playing. Oh, it's just so seamless.
Bizarre Inc. Oh, hang on.
Okay. Shall I carry on?
What's it called? I'm going to Get You.
I'm going to Get You by Bizarre Inc. Here we go.
See, I bet if it's...
Spotify can't play this right now. The track isn't available on your device.
Oh, so no, that we're trying...
That is paranormal.
That is weird.
I mean, that track would have been available until...
Their entire back catalogue is available apart from that one song.
That's not a coincidence, is it?
That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, come on.
Oh, my God. Okay. The stereo, a complex labyrinth of buttons and CDs, played the third dick. I think that's a typo.
What is going on?
Played the third song on an endless loop, the lyrics taunting our frayed nerves. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. Racing down the dimly lit hall, I reached for the power button only for the system to abruptly fall silent, as if mocking my futile efforts. In a surreal twist, I powered the stereo back on, only to find it playing the radio at a normal volume. The echoes of I'm gonna get you.
Oh,
that's quite nice. I like it.
Don't know it, but...
It's not creepy, is it?
It's a very upbeat track to be haunted by.
Yeah. Makes it even creepier.
I do know that. Of course I know that song.
Yeah. Where does it say I'm going to get you?
Are you sure this is the right song? Oh, I do know this song.
Yeah, I mean... You know, if you were going to be haunted by that, you'd want to ideally slow it down, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why waste your time? Yeah. You know you're going to be mine.
Yeah, so like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get So the echoes of I'm Going to Get You faded into the abyss, leaving us to grapple with the unsettling reality that the weekend held more horrors than our minds could fathom. The end. P.S. This all happened about 20 years ago now. Hope you enjoy it. Regards, Evan.
So,
wow.
I have to be honest. I got slightly lost in all the adjectives there. There
Yes.
was a kind of
Yes.
a sort of a cloud of adjectives that
Completely.
floated in front of my eyes. But you know, a very interesting story, and thank you.
Evan
for
is
that.
obviously a very talented
No, thank you, Evan. That was great. So he felt that he opened a portal with the Ouija board.
Yes.
And that the spirit was communicating through playing this track through the stereo.
Yes.
Bizarre.
The day after, whilst his parents were on a massive darts and drinks bender.
Yeah. But
That's the big takeaway.
I mean, what's interesting about this for me is that idea of haunted tech, and I kind of think, like, you know, we've grown up, you know, for like, you know, generations. We've had a vision of ghosts which is Victorians in smoky train platforms and gaslit streets and so on, and we tend to think of ghosts as an old thing. But actually, I love the idea of ghosts haunting modern locations in modern ways. And if you are a human being and you die, why would you not come back and use the things used in life, communicate, you know, and use the labyrinthine stereo, all that kind of thing. But I've had a few cases where people feel that, you know, kind of music devices have sprung to life. You know,
or like Alexa's
playing things
going
again
off.
and again. Yeah, and
Alexa's,
yeah, totally. And we had a case on the TV series, the Uncanny TV series, the Oxford Exorcism, the third episode, where some students were kind of haunted by a tape player that wasn't plugged in, playing to them in a kind of really loud, really terrifying way.
The thing is, it does make sense to me, because we've had this conversation many times before, and I'm sure our listeners are bored of hearing it, but if ghosts are real, I think they're going to come in the form of energy, and scientifically one day it'll be proven that this is how energy kind of transforms. And it does make sense for energy from the past to use electrical things to communicate, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Surely that does make sense.
Well, I think just, you know, for me, it's all about communication. Like, you know, if you're coming back from the dead, it's presumably because you want to communicate with the living, and
or scare the shit out of them.
Yeah, and how do we communicate as human beings? We are absolutely obsessed with communication.
Yeah.
We do it non-stop, and we've kind of refined it now in our present times to this mad level where we just, you know, we just communicate the hell out of our existence, don't we? Basically, you know, SMSs, DMs, you know, everything.
Yeah, social media spirits. I mean,
and even like to the point of reading body language. You're interpreting stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Why would ghosts be so bad at communicating?
Yeah, of course, they know.
Yeah, why are they so vague?
This is the thing, I've never got it. I remember going to watch a medium in a theatre, and literally he was kind of like, you know, I'm getting a name coming through. It could begin with B, or it might be D, or perhaps it's G. And you just think, why would you do that as a ghost?
Deborah, don't forget to put the bins out, you silly forgetful dickhead.
You know, you've got limited time to get a message through to your wife who's sitting in that medium's audience. Why would you play crazy games like that?
I know. Which does make me quite sceptical.
Unless it's just hard to it's hard. You're using two different forms of communication. It's hard to decipher what it is. It just seems like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around something that shouldn't be.
I think the flip side is that, you know, maybe being a ghost is a little bit like, you know, you could link it to, say, people with dementia, that kind of idea of a fragmented personality.
Or you're in a fog, and it's like you can't quite get through. It's not as simple as just being in the room and trying to get a word across.
And maybe that, you know, like knocking that picture off the mantelpiece or kind of pushing the cup across the table is a sort of desperate attempt to get attention because you can't adequately express yourself.
Yeah.
But there's that, you know, the brilliant BBC One series Ghosts, the sitcom where, you know, the poltergeist character, the politician character, you know, can just about move something a little bit. You know, the idea of the frustration of not being able to adequately communicate.
But the malevolence is the thing that I think, why would you come back and be that evil?
Yeah.
The Uncanny episode Harry called. That was like angry. That was a really angry spirit, and that's a bit terrifying. They're like, you could be driving down the road in the middle of the night and you could see something that's actually, because I'd imagine that ghosts aren't there they can't hurt you, they can't harm you, they're not physically there, but something that can scare you that much into...
Yeah, I mean, maybe ghosts are angry.
Driving into a bush.
There's a vision of ghosts where they are everywhere around us and we can't see them, or most of us can't see them, and we just ignore them in the same way that you walk past homeless people in the street and you're deadened to it and you just ignore them as they ask you for money. You know, like I think there's a vision. There's lots of ghosts out there desperate for our attention and locked out of life, basically.
Yeah, a medium said the other day when we went on this ghost hunt, and he said, actually, all of you here are mediums. Everyone is a medium. It's just that we haven't tuned our minds into the energy that's around us. Whether or not I believe him, but he was saying you can train yourself to start
But I think you can see that from a skeptical point of view, because if you're in a room on your own and you're scared and it's dark, you will see shadows in the corner. You'll see a man with a hat on because that's the shape you think you're going to see. The mind is such a crazy thing that I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of it until scientific.
But also, we're not going to get to the bottom of it today because we've run out of time. Danny, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much
for joining the Ghost
Huns. People for their stories that you sent in.
Quickly before we let you go, how, obviously you said you've got your superstitions. Totally fair enough.
Yeah.
How do you feel about looking into a Charlotte Tilbury makeup palette and saying Bloody Mary 3 times?
Well, you've got your Christmas.
You don't have to. You've got tourmaline on your side, but listen, the option's there.
I literally wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
So superstitious. It's ridiculous. I think it's kind of ludicrous, really, given my stance as a skeptical person. But I'm very susceptible to that. I've had to stop reading my horoscopes.
Really?
Because I used to read it and then think that it would happen to me, and
gosh,
and yeah.
What star sign are you?
I'm Virgo.
Same.
September 22nd. I am.
Oh, I'm 20th.
I
You're on the cusp, though. You're a cusper.
There's no need to be cruel. But no, I'm a cusper between Virgo and Libra. Funnily enough, Tom Felton, who was in my play, who people might know as Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter, he and I share a birthday. And he said to me, why did I choose the title 222 for my play? And I said, I don't know. I don't think there was a reason for it. I just wanted to choose a time that people wake up at night. I think I sort of chose it fairly randomly. And I went, well, I suppose 22 is my lucky number. I tend to book row 22 on a plane, or just. And I went, it's because it's my birthday, September 22nd. He went, no shit, my God, that's my birthday too, September 22nd as well. And we were like, whoa, that's a bit strange. But then now, we send each other these messages where we constantly find ourselves in situations with the number 22. So I'll be randomly in 22 in a hotel room, or sitting on a seat in the theatre, which is 22. We keep seeing this all the time, and we sort of talked ourselves into this now, and this kind of significance of 22. But I do wonder, as human beings, you tend to kind of we look for significance. We see patterns, we see shapes in the clouds, we see the face of Jesus in a slice of burnt toast. You're kind of constantly.
I'm still waiting to see Jesus in a toast.
Well, thank you so much. Just quickly before you go, you're on tour.
Yeah,
there are only a few tickets left. Your book as well.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, Into the Uncanny is my book. And go out, and once you've stopped listening to this podcast, go out and buy it. Almost trance-like. Walk out of your house in a trance and demand the book at your local bookstore.
Manifest that book into your life.
Give me the book.
This is the band forming.
Exactly. Otherwise, Danny Robbins is going to come and get you.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'll appear in your mirror. Don't you worry. Yes, it's a book which has brand new cases in, never told anywhere. They're not on the podcast or on telly or anything like that. And it's also quite a personal book. There's a kind of autobiographical element to it, of me talking about why I got interested in the paranormal, and some kind of quite deep and painful and personal reasons. Fear of death and all these sort of things that have led me into it. And I think hopefully things that will resonate. So
go and get it. Do go and get it right now.
And book and the podcast is out there. We're doing new episodes of the podcast.
And the play's on tour as well.
And 222 Ghost Stories on tour at the moment as well. So
it's absolutely.
You have to go and see it. Well, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
It has a pleasure.
A pleasure
and
an honour.
The paranormal world.
Yeah, thank you, Beyonce.
Does that make us collectively Destiny's Child?
Oh my God, she's Michelle.
Oh, for fuck's sake! All right, thanks guys. We'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Danny. Casper Danny.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.